Welcome to Module 2. This module provides an overview of the scope of Yokefellow Prison Ministry. Topics covered in Module 2 include what Yokefellow is and what Yokefellow is not. Let's start by focusing on what Yokefellow is. First of all, Yokefellow Prison Ministry is an unapologetically Christian ministry. Article 3, Section 1B of the bylaws, which can be viewed on the Yokefellow website, specifies that a general purpose of this ministry is to bear witness to the Christian faith. Thus, Article 3, Section 1C specifically states that the volunteers who lead the Yokefellow movement must be Christian in good standing with their local church. This restriction applies solely to those volunteering for Yokefellow. Article 3, Section 1C goes on to state that Yokefellows are to provide services to inmates of any and of no religious persuasion. Second, Yokefellow Prison Ministry is diverse. Article 3A of the Articles of Incorporation, which can also be viewed on the Yokefellow website, says that one purpose for which the corporation is organized is to develop and encourage interdenominational and interracial groups of concerned Yokefellows to work with prison inmates and to lead them to a better way of life. Article 3, Section 1C of the bylaws specifies that the ministry's fellowship is open to all men and women, both lay and clergy, of any denomination inside or outside correctional facilities in North Carolina. Article 6, Section 2 says the following regarding the members of the Board of Directors, which should be reflective of the ministry as a whole. Diverse representation will be encouraged regarding Christian denomination, clergy representation, sex, age, and race for reasonable equity and representation. Finally, Yokefellow Prison Ministry is a relational ministry. Article 3, Section 2A states that a specific purpose of this ministry is to provide a ministry of reconciliation to offenders in prisons and jails, as well as to those released from those facilities. To conduct a ministry of reconciliation to offenders aimed at reducing the cycle of recidivism, two specific objectives are set. One is to involve offenders and Yokefellow volunteers in sharing groups for spiritual growth. The other is to further serve the spiritual needs of offenders in prisons and jails, as well as those released from those facilities through faithful adherence to the Yokefellow model. Put more simply, the primary focus of Yokefellow Prison Ministry is building relationships between volunteers and inmates or returning citizens. Now let's take a look at what Yokefellow Prison Ministry is not. First, the ministry is not a Bible study. While Bible study is a wonderful tool for encouraging people to grow in their relationship with Christ, it falls outside the scope of being a relational ministry. The role of a Yokefellow volunteer is not to educate inmates about the Bible, although topics related to the Bible can certainly be discussed. Instead, the Yokefellow volunteer's role is to provide inmates with a place to feel heard, following the inmate's lead regarding what they would like to talk about as they build trusting relationships with the volunteers. The focus is on listening, caring, and encouraging rather than on educating. Second, Yokefellow Prison Ministry is not a worship service. While Yokefellow volunteers are expected to participate in public acts of worship at least weekly, those public observances should not be taking place during Yokefellow meetings. It is difficult to build trusting relationships through listening, caring, and encouraging when people are singing hymns and listening to preaching. Finally, Yokefellow Prison Ministry is not focused on preaching the gospel. As an unapologetic Christian ministry, we do hope to see many inmates develop a relationship with Christ, but the method used by Yokefellow volunteers is passive in nature. Rather than trying to convince inmates of their need for Jesus, Yokefellow volunteers passively extend this invitation by showing inmates the love of Christ through listening, caring, and encouraging. Numerous inmates have developed a relationship with Jesus and experienced transformed lives after first developing relationships with volunteers who care about them. As inmates and returning citizens grow to feel valued by the volunteers, they seek to know the God who sent the volunteers. While there is nothing wrong with other forms of ministry, they fall outside the scope of what Yokefellow Prison Ministry does. Numerous Christian groups provide Bible studies, worship services, and initiatives for preaching the gospel to inmates throughout the state of North Carolina. However, only Yokefellow Prison Ministry provides a form of ministry through sharing groups that builds trusting relationships through listening, caring, and encouraging. All of these forms of ministry are important and work together to provide a holistic representation of who Jesus is. By respecting the scope of this unique ministry at Yokefellow meetings, you are helping ensure that inmates and returning citizens are provided with the opportunity to build trusting relationships that supplement the other forms of ministry that are already being offered by other ministries. Thank you for viewing Module 2. You can review this video again and refer to the Volunteer Handbook to help you complete the test for this module.